Hey guys, got a quick video for you today. So I'm working on this RM250 engine, getting it ready to go back together. Now, one thing that's very important when you're doing an engine rebuild is to get all those gasket surfaces completely flat, especially on an older engine like this. This is a 2001, so it's nearly 20 years old. The gasket surfaces are pretty rough. So I'm gonna get them completely flat, and I'm gonna show you how you can do this at home for about $25. So first off, you're gonna need a sheet of glass. This is a 1/4 inch thick. You want something pretty thick so that way it doesn't flex at all. That was about $10 at a glass shop. You're gonna need some sandpaper. We're gonna be using mostly 220 grit. That was around $5. And then you're gonna need some spray adhesive as well. I think this was under 10 bucks too. Before you start, you wanna make sure the glass is completely clean and free of any dirt or nicks. Maybe use some contact cleaner on it to clean it up. That way the adhesive sticks good. We're gonna give the back side of the sandpaper a nice even coat of the adhesive. Let it tack up for a second, and then we're gonna try to cover as much of this glass as possible. Grab another sheet. All right, there we have it. Glass is completely covered. I'll bring it over to the edge and throw a clamp or two on it just to hold it in place. Now the first thing I'll be working on here are the crankcases. You can see the gasket surface is kind of chewed up, especially up there. Someone got a little too happy with the screwdriver, but I should be able to smooth most of that out. Now it's always a good idea to do the gasket sanding before you do any type of coating on the part. That way you don't risk scratching up that coating. We're gonna throw down some lubricant on the sandpaper. I'll be using maximum MPPL. You could use WD-40, but for the most part, any type of lubricant will do the trick. All right, so we're gonna start sanding with just light pressure here. Just kind of go in a circular pattern. Now the pattern you sand in doesn't matter a whole lot, as long as you're not just doing the same thing over and over. Just kind of doing a circular pattern, move it around, and you'll be good to go. And you just want to make sure you keep the crankcase on the sandpaper. If you go off the edge of it, that could kind of distort the gasket surface a little bit. Looking pretty good already. Definitely don't want to do too much sanding on it. After about a minute of sanding, go through and check out the surface once again. Oh, it looks pretty flat and smooth, except for up here. Those scrapes are pretty deep, and by the time I sand those out, the case would be out of spec. So I'm just gonna have to leave those. I think it should seal up fine. And then I'm going to sand out this surface on this side. Don't really see much damage on this one, so I'm just gonna give it like 30 seconds of sanding, and it should be all ready to go. This side turned out pretty much perfect. Got a nice consistent finish on it. Now I'm gonna move to the left case. And as you can see, we've got some damage to smooth out here. One issue I just ran into is if you don't have the seams lined up very well, the case will catch it and tear it up. So make sure you have those seams as good as you can get it. Both of these surfaces turned out remarkably well. Not much of the way of scraping there. The side looks good. Now the one surface we have left is for the cylinder base, and we're gonna wanna have both crankcases bolted together in order to sand this. So with the bolts loose, I'm gonna line up this base gasket the best I can. Get everything nice and square. It actually helps to grab a steel plate, throw it on top. That's about the best we're gonna get it right there. And then just snug down the bolts. Now one issue we're gonna run into if we try to sand the cases on the glass over here, see how right here it's gonna hit the case there. We don't really have a nice flat surface to sand on. So we're gonna have a little different approach here. So what I've got is a 1/4 inch thick steel plate. I went through and sanded this thing on the glass for a while to get it completely flat. So I'm gonna glue some sandpaper to it and just get sanding. Now with this method, you wanna be really careful because you don't have complete coverage of the gasket area. You just wanna spread out your sanding as much as possible. going all different angles here. And it's nice having such a heavy plate. You don't have to worry about keeping the weight down on it. You can just kind of glide over it. Obviously make sure that you're sanding flat, but you don't really want to put too much pressure on there because aluminum does sand pretty quick. Flip the case around, go from this side. So you definitely don't want to do too much sanding with this method, or else you could end up with an uneven surface here. But let's take a look at it. For the most part, it looks pretty even, except for right here, it's a little low. I'm gonna sand on it a little bit more and hopefully even that out. All right, we're ready to rip. Looking good, nice and flat. Now keep in mind when you're done sanding, you will need to clean up the part since there will be some aluminum bits left over. Now the next few things I'll be sanding are all the engine covers and the cylinder. By the way, check out this cylinder. It looks absolutely epic. I had Josh blast this as well. Josh Traxler, he did an amazing job on it. If you guys are interested in some vapor blasting, I will have him linked down below. For these smaller covers, you only want to spend a few seconds on each. That's all it takes. These ones turned out pretty good, nice and flat. Now for the cylinder, unfortunately I won't be able to sand it. You can see there, this part's in the way. Won't be able to sand it here on the glass, so I'm gonna have to use the steel bar. Now for this head gasket surface here, we definitely want to be careful, not sand that too much or get all crazy with it. Just gonna go light strokes, super even all the way across. Switch up your angle. Just gonna sand it until we have a nice, consistent sand there. There's no dips or high spots. That looks nice and flat there, nice and uniform. This surface was already in pretty good shape. Let's move to the intake manifold. That one cleaned up really nicely as well. And remember to always keep that plate flat on the gasket surface. You don't want to tilt it up on the edge. That'll sand the edge of the surface pretty quickly. Now there's two surfaces we really can't get to on the cylinder. That would be the front exhaust valve cover. It's in between two notches. Can't really get in there and sand it. And then the base gasket as well. That is kind of tough to sand without warping it. Looks like it's in pretty good shape already, so we shouldn't need to worry about it. Now I guess if you absolutely had to sand this base gasket, you could take the plate. Just be really careful. Make sure you're really even all the way around. But with something like this, you want to keep the sanding to an absolute minimum. Once again, when you're all finished up with sanding, you want to clean off the parts, make sure there's no aluminum shavings left behind. That'll definitely not be too great for your engine. Now, some of you guys might remember how crappy the cylinder was when I pulled it off the engine. There was some detonation damage back here. It was all chipped up, some scrapes and scratches inside the bore, damage around the exhaust port. So I sent it out to Power Seal USA. They went through, completely repaired the whole thing. You would never know how crappy it was beforehand. So they ended up TIG welding the cylinder back here, cleaned up the scrapes and scratches in the bore, replated it with Nicosil, got it all ready to go. And then afterwards I sent it to Josh, like I mentioned earlier, to have it vapor blasted. He got it looking freaking sweet. So now we have a cylinder ready to mix some gas and haul some ass. You guys will have to stay tuned for the next video. I'll be doing some engine coatings, some stuff I've actually never done before. So you'll have to keep an eye out for that. I hope this video helped you guys out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in a video coming soon. Keep it primed.